Now that we added the file upload functionality, we got two more functionalities or two more features left which I want to add. One is the feature to comment. Below a post, I want to have a comment form where any visitor can leave a comment, and then a list of existing comments. And in addition, on every post, I want to have a button which allows me as a visitor to mark this post for later so that I can read it later. And I then want to have a new item here in the navigation where I can view all those marked posts. Now we are going to add those functionalities, but before we do that, I actually first wanna change something in my blog app folder, and there in the views. Currently we have only function views there. All our views are functions. And since we also learned about class-based views, I think it makes sense to also convert those view functions to class-based views. Not because this here would be horrible or wrong, but just to again practice this alternative. Now, as before, feel free to try this on your own first. Think about which class-based view might be best for each function, so from which class you want to inherit. I will come up with my choices and my solution after a short pause, which I give you to pause this video. Were you successful? Let's implement this together. And let's start with the starting page. On this page, we have a couple of things which we're doing. We are fetching posts, so a list of data, even though it's a limited list to only 3 items, but still it's a list. And then we're rendering a template. So there are 3 main views which we could extend here. We could extend the default view class and then add our own get method to put this logic into such a method. We could do that, but it would only add extra code and not really save us anything. We could also use the template view to make rendering this template a bit easier. That could make sense because then at least we don't have to call render manually. Not a huge saving, and arguably in the end it would still be a couple of lines of extra code, but it would make more sense than the default view class. We could also use the list view instead, because in the end here we are fetching a list of posts. Ultimately, we will still not end up with less code because we'll have to override a couple of methods, but I will still go with that approach since it makes the most sense to me here and since I also want to practice that view again. So therefore, we first of all start by importing from Django .views.generic, and from there we import the list view in this case. Then I'll add a new class, the starting page view, which inherits from that list view here, like this. Now inside of that list view, I want to define my template name. As a side note, Django also has some defaults which it expects, but I want to be very clear about which template is related to that view, so I will set my own template name and set this to blog/index.html. So the same template I'm using down there in this function version of that view. Then we want to set up the model for which data should be fetched. And here that's this post model which we're already importing. But then here we have to be careful because we both need to adjust the query set to only fetch a limited number of items as well as the ordering. And therefore, there actually are 2 methods which we need to override. The first method is the getQuerySet method, which basically controls how data will be queried. There I get a default query set, which fetches all posts, but I want to limit that. I want to set my actual data to this query set which wants to get all posts, so post objects all, to a limited number of posts, to only 3 posts to be precise. So the same slice which I take down there. And then it's this data which I actually want to continue with in this list view. Now I also want to make sure that data is ordered correctly, and we can do this by adding the ordering field here to our view. And we can set this to a list with all our ordering fields. So here I want to order by date in a descending order, but if I then also would want to order by another field after ordering by date in a descending order, I could add this as an extra entry here. Just as you can add multiple ordering fields to the order by method here. So that's how we make sure that our data will still be ordered correctly. And with that, we should be fine. With that, we can remove this starting page function and then go to urls.py in our blog project folder. And where we previously pointed at the starting page view, I will now point at the starting page view class and call as view on it. And now let's see whether that works. Make sure you save all files. And if I load the starting page, no data is showing up here. This makes sense though, because don't forget, by default, or at the moment I should say, we are expecting the data under the name posts here on our starting page. We are expecting the data here under a name posts because previously in the views, if I bring back the function form, we passed all our fetched posts with that key or under that key to the template. Now by default, object list is used by Django if you use that list view. So to change this, we have to change our context object name here and change this to posts. So that again, the fetched posts, which are ordered and limited, are provided to the template under that name posts, so that we don't need to change our template code. And with that change made to our list view here, if I now reload the starting page, our posts are back. Now, arguably, that's more code than we had before, and you can, of course, stick to the function view therefore if you prefer that. I just really also want to practice those class-based view agains, which is why I switched to this list view. Now let's also migrate this view for fetching all the posts. Here, again, I will add a class and name this all posts view and also extend the list view here because we still have a list of posts here. The only difference to the starting page view is in the end that we don't take a slice, but that we take all the posts. And therefore, this is an even easier class to write. Because here, I'll set my template name to blog/all-posts HTML. So the same template we used here. I'll set the model, of course, to post because I still want to fetch all my posts. I'll set ordering here to the same field as I did above, so to -date, to order by date in descending order. And I'll set the context object name to all_posts because that's the name which we used before for exposing our data. We don't need to override getQuerySet here because here I don't really want to do anything else. I don't want to limit the number or anything like that. So therefore, that's the only thing we need to do here. And with that change applied, we can go to urls.py. And for this posts page here, we now want to point at views, all posts view as view, like this. And then save this. And if I now go to all posts, I have all my posts here. So this also works as it should now. Now, of course, we got more views, one more view to be precise, and that's the detail view. And we had a look at a specialized view for this situation as well. It's even named the detail view, and we can import it from Django views generic here. The detail view allows us what the name implies. It allows us to create a view which is focused on showing us the details. So therefore here, I will add a new class and name this single post view and extend the detail view here. And then again, we set up a template name, which in this case is blog/post-detail HTML. The model for which we want to fetch a single post is the post model. And then we need to make sure that we do fetch by slug, but that won't be a problem because this is supported out of the box by the detail view. If your dynamic segment here is a slug for a view which inherits from detail view, Django will automatically search for an item by that slug. So it is able to search by primary key, what we saw earlier in the course, and by slug, what we're doing here. So we don't need to change anything here. It will also automatically raise a 404 error, which in this case will show the 404 page we prepared, if an item should not be found. So with that, we can get rid of our post detail function here, and in URLs py now connect the single post view as a view like this. If we save this, however, and we visit a single post, we get an error. We get an error that the template post detail does not exist. Yeah, it should be post detail, not posts detail. So that's a typo from my side. Template should be post detail. But if I fix this and reload, it works. But we still have a problem here. Not a visible error, not an error message, but still a problem. And the problem is that the tags are not showing up here. Now, before, I did actually fetch those tags and show them, but I'm not doing this here anymore. We're just fetching the post, but our post model indeed does have this tags field. So what we can do now is in our single post view, we can override the get context data method here, where our data is being fetched. And here, of course, we get the automatically created context, which we still should return in the end. But I want to manipulate this context, and I want to add a new field. And that's a field which we expect in the template, this post tags field. We have to re-add it to make this template work again and to show those tags again. And post tags, of course, should be fetched based on our post which we're fetching. So for that, we can get access to this fetched post under self.object, as you learned in the previous sections. That's how you can get access to the detail data, which the detail view fetches automatically. So to the single identified post we need here. And then, since this will be an instance of the post model on this object, we can access all the post fields, in this case the tags field. So here we can access .tags.all to access all the tags for this given post and expose that through our context to the template. And then here I return the updated context, which contains this post tags field. And that should be post tags, not posts tags. But with that, if we now save all of that and reload, our tags are back, and this is working again. And now we migrated all those views to class-based views. If you want to do that or not is up to you. It's just an alternative, which I want to again practice here since it can come in handy and since there are developers preferring that over function views. Of course, if you have simple function views, as we had it before, you don't have to make this conversion. It's really also just about practicing this here, which is why I migrated all my views.